the Niners restructured Trent Williams and George Kittle, maybe to create space for Nick Bosa, maybe to create space for another move. It's a very aggressive win now move. Like, consequences down the line be damned. We're going to make our team as good as we can possibly make it right now. What was your reaction when you saw this news?
Well, there were two sides. I'm a cynic, naturally. So the first thing that came to my mind is, we're kicking the can. Beautiful, right? We're kicking the can on older guys who aren't going to help us in the future, and they're going to be making more money than what they're worth once they get longer in the tooth. And some of them, I mean, they already are long in the tooth. But what I started doing is I started charting out what the original plan was. And really, I don't think that the Niners prepared for I don't think that they didn't prepare, but I don't think that they understood just how it was going to look, the lack of depth with letting so many vital pieces go throughout the offseason. But if you're going to bring in more depth and you're going to bring in more youth, man, we have tons of picks next year, right? And getting those guys extended and being able to broaden out the floor and get new guys into your organization so they can absolutely see how it's done from the best guys in the building. That's another thing, Grant. Like, I understand that the money that we're paying these guys is directly attributed to what they do on the field, wins and losses. But the Niners do have a culture to keep. They do have younger guys that are getting a ton of development from having those guys in the building and the coaches. So I do understand that fiscally, it doesn't make a move in a it doesn't make sense in a vacuum when it's saying, man, you extended George Kittle. Like, does he really deserve that pay raise, that lump sum money? But what it does is that it keeps some of the cornerstone players in our organization. It keeps us ready for the draft because we have tons of picks coming up. And on top of that, it also shows that that we've also made room to be able to sign the guys like Brandon Ayuk in the future. So yeah. I get the move. There's parts about it that I don't like, but overall, I understand why.
Here's what I don't like about it. I feel like it's painting the Niners in a corner. Like, I'm all about the Niners going all in this year. I didn't like that they didn't last year. I feel like this is an all-in move, but it also feels kind of like a risky move. You know, right. You restructure Fred Warner, Christian McCaffrey, Travarius Ward, anyone in their 20s. I'm like, cool, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, you're a core part of your team and you want him to be here for a while. You're not looking to get out of this contract. But Kittle, I'm going year to year with Kittle. Like, I was thinking about trading him last year. Trent Williams is 35 years old. Like, Trent Williams.
You've been trying to get rid of George for years.
I mean, like, George Kittle's hurt now. He's limited in practice today. Like, true. Trent Williams had a vet day yesterday after like a week off. Like, the guy he rarely practices and he's great. But I just feel like these two are sort of at the end. And what's most likely going to happen is in 2 years, there's going to be a lot of dead money with these two guys. But at that point, do they have a sixth Lombardi trophy? Do they even care? I don't know. I'm saying they could become the Rams, but I think the Rams are cool being the Rams because they have a Lombardi and McVay has a statue. I will see.
Yeah, but we're not the Rams because we didn't completely decimate our draft capital just to get players in the building. We didn't do it that way. I mean, Trey Lance notwithstanding, the Niners have done very good at not only doing good in later parts of the draft, but actually getting the picks to make the decisions, right? Yeah. So even coming in, like, I can't say that we're the Rams because the Rams, they truly gave away all of their future to be able to get to the Super Bowl. I don't think we're doing that. I think what we're doing is that we're trying to win with the window that we have now, but we're also trying to keep the window open by paying and sustaining the strongest parts of the frame, which are the top guys, which is the Trent Williams and the George Kittle. But what you're hoping is that you're bringing people under them that are going to give you requisite talent and production. So I see what it does. It helps us get more money, and it keeps it keeps big personalities and big talent in the locker room. I don't have a problem with the money's got to get spent some way, man. It's got to get spent.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it though is like, I mean, if they're restructuring these two guys to fit everything together, like you can't pay for everyone. And this was a big, I think they're spending more on Bosa than they expected to. They're not going to be able to sign everyone next year. And I mean, maybe they'll have space for Brandon Ayuk. I mean, he's under contract with the 5th year option.
I think they got enough space, man.
But like Tashawn Gibson, Oren Burks, Cleveland Farrell,
Gip won't be back.
Ray McLeod, like a lot of these guys won't be back next year. And they're going to, Juwan Jennings, not going to be back next year. So, I mean, maybe they're prepared for all that, but like once again, they're going to be less and less, they're going to be thinner unless they start nailing some of these draft picks early in the draft.
And
it's like they're painting themselves into a corner.
Bro,
it's like they're painting themselves into a corner. Yeah.
Ig, you took the words right out of my mouth, though. Juwan Jennings is a talent because we found him, right? But it's not as if you got to look at the requisite, what we got, what we gave up to get him. Juwan Jennings was a 7th round pick, 6th round pick. And with that, we've got Ronnie Bell coming in. Like some of these guys are amplified because of the system that they play in and how they're used. They're amplified. And that's part of the reason why we can't afford some of them when it's time for them to get their deals. Because their true skill set in the marketplace is overvalued compared to what it is inside of our organization. So I understand not being able to afford like BA. I feel like BA is a transferable talent. Anywhere, any team, they want Brandon Ayuk, right? Juwan Jennings, right. But Juwan Jennings, I don't know. I feel like Juwan is very talented player, but
he's very specific.
His skill set is a little bit more curated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you got to ask yourself, are you going to overpay for a stick shift? Where it's like, I can get a regular stick shift. Like, I don't have to do that, right? So,
but there's so many teams that run Kyle Shanahan's scheme that might have more cap space that feel like, you know what? I don't have to overpay for Juwan Jennings. I'll just give him market rate and the Niners can't compete. Let's go back to Ayuk for a second. Because to me, I wonder how Ayuk feels about all this. Like you see Nick Bosa get all this money and you see all these restructures and it's like, have you really budgeted for me? I mean, I'm not the greatest fit for this offense. I'm more of a downfield guy and you don't really try and you make me run routes that I can run, but aren't necessarily like my best. What's my future here? I would be thinking that if I were Brandon Ayuk. Maybe that's not.
I would too.
Yeah.
I would too. But I feel like a lot of those questions, there's so many narratives and hats that Kyle has to wear this year because really, not only does Kyle, in my opinion, have to prove to Brock that he believes in him. He has to prove to the fan base that Brock is the right guy, but he's got to prove to the locker room that this is my guy. This is who I believe in. This isn't a guy who can just run my offense. This is your quarterback. Because really, in a sense, and I grant you could probably speak to this from being inside of NFL locker rooms. There is a special annexed relationship between receivers and quarterbacks, right? It's kind of like their own thing. And if Brandon Ayuk doesn't have confidence that he has that in Brock Purdy, I really do feel like that could be one of the deciding factors on him deciding to be a piece in this offense or to strike out and go be featured, right? In a more traditional offense, vertical laden offense. So I feel as though that the jury is still out on that because we still have to play. I will say that I know that BA was very excited about playing with former quarterbacks that were here, but I still see kind of like what BA gives me is confidence in that whoever's throwing the ball, I'm still going to do what I need to do, right? But at the same time, when you get to the negotiation table, you do have to start thinking about working smarter, not harder, right? And how much of it is a laborious of a task to get open and to be there and to run routes with Brock Purdy as your quarterback. We'll be able to answer those questions as the season progresses. So it's going to be dope.
It's going to be interesting. from Ayuk's perspective, like you didn't name me a captain. I don't know. Just like I'd be curious. Like, do you really prioritize me? Because what Nick Bosa did was he set his price and stuck to it. When Buckner tried that, they shipped him out of town in March of that offseason. Like, I want $20 million. That's what I'm worth. And they're like, okay, cool. We're not going to pay that. Goodbye. Like, what if Ayuk says, hey, I'm worth $20 million a year. I know you guys don't feature me the way I should be featured, but on another team I would be. That's what I'm worth. What are we going to do? You know how the Niners do business? I mean, they don't just necessarily hand it over, even to Bosa. They'll make you sweat it out.
Hell yeah. I mean, this really put it to, if I'm in the locker room, Nick going through all of this kind of lets you know nobody's safe, right?
Right.
That's one. Two, the same leverage that Nick has, Brandon can have it too. Nick came off of Defensive Player of the Year. That's a hell of a feather to have in your cap when you're trying to get more bread, right? Yeah. And depending on how BA is used, one of the things that's kind of unique about receivers, because it's more of a position where it's more dependency. You have to depend on somebody else to kind of feature you. So it can go twofold, in my opinion. It could be BA has a hell of a year. We need him to carry us and be the tip of the spear for us through our passing game. And then he comes back to the negotiation table completely leveraged and saying, hey, read it and weep. This is what I did. You know, I basically Bosa redux, right? You know, he may even get an award, right? And you guys gotta bend the knee. Or he could be disgruntled.
Or he could price himself out.
Yeah.
He could price himself out.
He could price himself out, or he could be disgruntled too, Grant. He can come back to the negotiation table and say, you know what? All of this in breaking route bullshit that we did throughout the year, and we lost and struggled. Your quarterback is not what you said he is, and my numbers struggled. You know it, I know it, and if you act like you can't pay me my market rate, I'll go elsewhere. Because what you're not going to do is struggle paying me and then have people around the league thinking whether or not I'm worth what I did or not, because my numbers weren't where they are. So
I'm telling you,
it can go two ways.
When they restructure a 35-year-old tackle and a soon-to-be 30-year-old tight end, I'm starting to think, is the 25-year-old split end going to be on this team for a while, which is crazy to me because he's the one with the future. He's the one who's still getting better. He should be a priority, but we've talked about this. Like, their scheme and their quarterback and their offensive line doesn't necessarily allow Ayuk to show his full skill set. I compare him to Torrey Holt. Torrey Holt couldn't be Torrey Holt in this offense.
No, he could not. No. He needs the ball. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He needs Kurt Warner. He needs the ball to go down the field. He needs Orlando Pace to be given the quarterback time.
I really do. I really hope that this is a good conversation to have near the end of the year, like where BA is just kind of, you know, I just kind of want it to be a foregone conclusion. He deserves whatever money that he gets. I mean, he's coming prepared out. I mean, injuries notwithstanding, he's good to go. So like I said, man, it could really be, even if he doesn't have the production, man, you know how receivers are, bro. Like, he could come in there and be like, I should have had the ball thrown to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like these routes. I don't like how I'm being utilized in this offense. I blocked for damn near half the season. You know what I'm saying? And got bullshit balls thrown to me. You know, so, you know, he could feel that way too. That's real. You know what I'm saying? So
we'll have to see.
Yeah, we would.